From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefanía Bravo, and this is From the South. The right-wing candidate Ivan Duque has won a clear victory in Colombia's runoff presidential election. The results came through a lightning speed after the polls closed an hour and a half ago. With over 99% of the votes counted, Duque, a protege of ex-president Álvaro Uribe, has almost 54% of the vote. The leftist ex-mayor of Bogotá, Gustavo Petro, has just under 42%. A midday report of the second round of elections revealed that at least 114 reports of electoral irregularities and crimes had been received between midnight and 11 a.m. today. The Electoral Observation Mission said in a statement at noon that they had received reports from 17 departments and 55 municipalities. The group said that the most frequently reported irregularity was the alleged buying and selling of votes, with over 50 reports of the transportation of voters in cars, buses, and taxis, and giving of money or resources in local markets. From the Caribbean coast to the heights of the Andes, over 11,000 polling stations in Colombia opened at 8 a.m. and closed at 4 p.m. for the runoff presidential elections. After the first round of presidential elections in May, around 37 million Colombians went to more than 1,000 polls across the country to decide between the two candidates, the right-wing Ivan Duque and the center-left Gustavo Petro. When Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos cast his ballot at the start of the day, he called on people to participate peacefully and massively in these elections.
For the first time, an ex-FARC commander voted democratically, no longer armed and as a leader of a political party. The country is transformed and is transforming for the better.
Leftist presidential candidate and former guerrilla Gustavo Petro can be seen here casting his vote at a polling station in Bogotá. Petro pledged to take on political elites, redistribute land to the poor, and gradually eliminate the need for oil and coal in Latin America's fourth largest economy. The leftists also promised to support the existing FARC peace deal and continue the peace process with the National Liberation Army, ELN, Colombia's last active rebel group.
We're going to build a Colombia that's humane and at peace, a Colombia that reconciles with itself, that reconciles with its history, a history made up of work, production, wisdom, knowledge, literature, music, art, poetry, a Colombia that comes back to its path as a great nation. And that possibility finally only depends on us after 2 centuries to begin the construction of an era of peace.
And here we see Petro's opponent Ivan Duque voting. Duque from the Democratic Center Party is widely regarded as being the puppet of former hardline President Alberto Uribe, who is accused of having links with right-wing paramilitary groups. He has promised to revise the peace deal reached with the former insurgent group FARC, which could mean a setback for the peace process. He opposes same-sex marriage and adoption, which earned him the support of the most conservative sectors of society, including the Catholic and Christian churches.
We have done everything within reach of what can be done in a campaign to win. Today, we ask God, so the Colombian people will give us a victory to transform our country.
Now joining us from Medellin for an analysis of the election is Aaron Taus from the National University of Colombia. He's an assistant professor of international relations, political economy, and conflict resolution, and has written about the Colombian process. Hi, Aaron. Thank you for joining us. Talk about how a Duque victory is going to affect the peace process, both in terms of the peace accord with the FARC and then the ongoing talks with the ELN.
I think the government of Duque definitely tried to find especially in terms of land, and I think also in terms of the special justice that the deal created. Especially politicians and military officers, including the former president Álvaro Uribe, are facing war crime charges. And that's one of the reasons why they want to rewrite that part of the report. I mean, I'm referring here to the special justice system. And also business people and ranchers are also fearing that part, that special justice system of the peace deal for funding right-wing paramilitaries in the past. And so I would say that Duque government will definitely try to undermine that implementation of the peace deal, because Uribe's party has historically been related to both right-wing politicians and military officers, as well as business people and cavalry.
Now, Duque is backed by Uribe, who is leaving office in August with record low unpopularity. How do you think this will set up Duque to coordinate the peace process?
I know. I think it's going to be difficult for for FARC somehow to make sure that the different points that were agreed upon in the peace deal will actually be implemented. And I think not only in terms of justice, but also in terms of land restitution. Colombia has over 7 million peasants that have been driven off their land over the past couple of decades. And the peace deal foresees that their land is being restituted. But as of yet, only about 4% of the latest report I've seen of that stolen land has been really restituted to those peasants. And so I think now under a Duque government, these sort of the process of land restitutions will be even harder to go forward, especially if you take into consideration that in the countryside, the central government has historically been rather weak, and the past government, the Santos government, has tried to really move forward in the issue of land restitution, but due to the resistance of right-wing paramilitaries and local politicians linked to cattle ranges and paramilitaries, this process has been really difficult to implement, and I can imagine that now it will be even harder.
Now, one last question for you. The new president also campaigned on the rewriting of Santos' peace agreement. What kind of changes can we expect to see with his presidency?
I would say, first of all, they're going to try to rewrite part of the special justice system in order to protect politicians and military officers, cattle ranchers, and also business people, so they won't be judged with war crimes. And second issue is definitely land restitution. But I think it'd be also harder in terms for political participation, because the second point of the peace treaty also foresees more participation for social movements and for left-wing parties. And as the FARC campaign in the last elections in March showed, it will be really hard for the FARC, now being a political party, to really make that move from a guerrilla organization to a political party, because both the media and also, let's say, the government will make it really difficult for them to gain any political support in the future.
Aaron, thank you so much for your time. That was Aaron Taos from the National University of Colombia. We'll take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
Gustaría ver cómo es una entrada de Maradona a la cancha. Y el 10 tiene una persona muy especial que lo está viendo en este momento. Estoy hablando del expresidente Lula y acaso próximo presidente de Brasil otra vez. Querido Diego, lo está viendo, escuchando Lula en Brasil.
Mi amigo Víctor Hugo y mi amigo Lula, tenga mucha fuerza porque usted le ha dado a Brasil lo que Brasil se merece. Y los corruptos, lamentablemente, ganan algunas batallas, pero las guerras de los países la ganan los que realmente quieren al pueblo. Telesur está copando Latinoamérica, está copando Sudamérica, y eso no lo puede parar nadie. Es como que Lula va a ser el próximo presidente de Brasil.
Welcome back. Switzerland and Brazil drew 1-1 in a tight Group E World Cup opener on Sunday. With 20 minutes gone, Coutinho gathered a clearance 25 yards from goal and curled a marvelous shot into the far corner of the post to give the 5-time world champions the lead. However, Switzerland, who had looked weak throughout the first half, got back on level terms 5 minutes into the second period when Suber rose unmarked to head home a corner kick. The result means that Serbia lead Group E after beating Costa Rica 1-0 earlier in the day. And while Brazil fans celebrated their team's goal, they were also seen chanting Lula Livre, calling for the release of former Brazilian President Lula da Silva. And in Telesur's exclusive show, De la Mano del 10 with Diego Armando Maradona, the football legend gave a message of strength to former President Lula da Silva, who is currently in jail.
Mi amigo Víctor Hugo y mi amigo Lula.
My friend Lula, be strong, because you have given Brazil what Brazil deserves. Unfortunately, the corrupt win some battles, but the wars are won by those who love the people. Telesurs in all of Latin America, no one can stop that. Like no one can stop Lula from being the next president of Brazil.
And prison will not stop former President Lula da Silva from commenting on the 2018 Russia World Cup. Lula will comment on the World Cup for Brazil's TVT. This was confirmed by journalist José Trejano via Twitter. In a video, he confirmed that Lula will comment on the World Cup through letters from prison. Brazil is well positioned and supported by a spirited fan base, despite the country's current crisis on the ground. Our correspondent Mia Alberti has the story in Brazil.
The World Cup has officially started here in Brazil, and although the political and economic crisis have dampened the excitement of previous years, the feeling here is still very optimistic.
We have a very good team. We won the Olympics and we are going to win strongly this year.
Brazil will be the champion, France will come second and Portugal third.
Brazil was named the most likely team to win, according to The Economist magazine. The group is led by coach Tite and captain Marcelo, but it's also relying on Neymar's talents. Despite a serious back and ankle injury 4 months ago, the 26-year-old star is back on the field. This World Cup will be missing one of the greatest. 77-year-old football legend Pelé won't be attending the games in Russia due to health issues. Brazil has tied its first game against Switzerland, but it still has to face Costa Rica and Serbia to move on to the round of 16. The loss against Germany in 2014 is still very present in the Brazilians' mind, but this year, one thing is certain, the eye it's on the prize. Mia Alberti, Telesur in São Paulo.
Mexico has beaten world champion Germany 1-0 in their first game at the World Cup on Sunday. Irving Lozano finished off a sharp counterattack that exposed the Raj defending that the 4-time winners had displayed in their warm-up games. Mexico's win could change the destiny of the game, since it was expected that Germany would win in Group F without major difficulties. In the second match of Group F, Mexico will play against North Korea on June 23rd, and Germany will play against Sweden. Mexican supporters celebrate on touristic Reforma Avenue as their national football team won.
We had hope. We knew it was going to be hard. I was hoping for a tie, but it happened. We won. We are very happy.
We are so excited, so happy because of the game. Congrats to Ochoa. He's a great goalkeeper. It was a great game. We have a great team.
Fans in Berlin were devastated at the result, with Germany's proud record of never being eliminated in the group stage at a World Cup is already in danger. And if they finish runners-up in Group F, Germany could be on course to face Brazil in a daunting second-round matchup.
With all due respect, I think that in the first half of the match, we were superior. In the second half, we knew full well that the reigning world champions, Germany, has an outstanding team. That when they are losing, they tend to make the substitutions they made today, and they try to attack more. We prepare the use of Mario Gomez up front. Yesterday, we practiced defending with 4 midfielders and 3 players up front, and that is pretty much how we almost got the second goal today.
Indeed, it's disappointing to have lost the first match. That is a situation we are not used to at all. In the many tournaments before, we always won the first match, but this is a situation we have to accept as such. Of course, there can be obstacles to overcome, we know that. Now we have to draw the right conclusions, and in the next match, we have to be much better.
Serbia got their World Cup Ground E campaign up and running with 1-0 victory over Costa Rica on Sunday. With the Central Americans providing a tough nut to crack, Kolarov stepped up to bury a 25-meter effort from wide on the right. Serbia had dominated against Costa Rica's side, who rarely threatened after a bright start, but chances were thin on the ground until Kolarov made the breakthrough in the 56th minute. In the second match of Group 3, Costa Rica will play against Brazil and Serbia against Switzerland. Now let's take a look at the group points. In Group F, Mexico is in first place with 3 points, while Sweden, South Korea, and Germany have 0 points. And in Group E, Serbia takes the lead with 3 points. Brazil and Switzerland both have 1 point, and Costa Rica sits at the bottom with 0 points. And for tomorrow's matches, Sweden will play against South Korea in Group F. Belgium will play against Panama in Group G. Tunisia will play against England in Group G. Colombia say they don't want to underestimate any of their rivals ahead of their World Cup opener with Japan. Forward Luis Muriel says the team is taking the competition game by game and not looking too far ahead.
Colombia doesn't want to underestimate any of its rivals. I think we would be making a big mistake if we did. Concentration is essential. To have a good World Cup like we had in Brazil, we need to go much further. This team is capable. Our rule is to take it game by game, not to look too far ahead, because we would lose our spirit. Now, we're just thinking about Japan. We'll think about what's next after that.
And that's all for today's Telesur Russia 2018 headlines. Dome is our exclusive show, De la Mano del 10, the World Cup according to Maradona, only on Telesur English. At least 17 people were killed in Caracas after a canister of tear gas was set off during a fight at a graduation party, according to Néstor Revelador, Venezuela's interior minister.
There are 17 people dead so far, including 8 minors. 5 of the injured are in critical condition, and we have arrested 7 suspects, including 2 minors. According to witness information, one of the minors is responsible for setting off a tear gas canister.
Ecuador's former National Secretary of Intelligence has been arrested in Spain. Interpol arrested Pablo Romero Quesada for links to the case of the alleged kidnapping of Fernando Valda in Colombia in 2012. The State Attorney General is continuing its investigation into the case. On June 14th, the National Assembly rejected a judge's request to indict former President Rafael Correa in connection with the abduction. A volcano on the Galapagos Islands in Ecuador has erupted after a series of earthquakes. La Cumbre volcano, located on Fernandina Island, erupted Saturday, sending lava flows and a gas column spanning about 2 to 3 kilometers high. The Galapagos, known for its unique flora and fauna, is a part of the planet's biosphere reserve and is one of the most delicate ecosystems in the world. We'll take a short break now, but join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting. Welcome back. We return now to Colombia, where we are joined live from Gustavo Petro's headquarters in Bogotá by our Colombian correspondent, Natalia Margarita. Natalia, we now know that Ivan Duque has won. What is the mood like now where you are, and what are we expecting to happen next?
Hi there, Stephanie. We're right here in the headquarters of the campaign of Gustavo Petro, the progressive leftist candidate. And as you said, the official results have already come out, giving the victory to the right-wing candidate and member of the party of former President Álvaro Uribe, Ivan Duque. However, as you can see, perhaps behind me, there is a very festive mood here in the headquarters of Gustavo Petro. Basically, they are saying that regardless that they didn't make it to the presidency, they have lots of reasons to celebrate today, especially because Gustavo Petro has won 8 million votes, which is a historic high vote here in Colombia for a left-wing independent candidate. No other independent left-wing candidate before in Colombian history have won such a high vote here in Colombia. The highest votation for a left-wing candidate was in 2006, and it was 2,500,000. And now we're talking about 8 million votes. So basically people here are celebrating, they're in a very good mood, and they are saying that no matter that Ivan Duque has won, they will continue struggle for the implementation of the peace agreement here in Colombia, that they will continue defending social justice and peace here in this country.
Natalia, last question for you. There were multiple allegations of voter fraud during the first round of this election process. We have been seeing similar claims again today. Has there been any reaction to this where you are?
No, not yet, Stephanie. Here, basically, as I said before, they are celebrating this historic high vote for the left wing. And they are also waiting that in a couple of minutes, the presidential candidate, Gustavo Petro, will come out to deliver a speech to hundreds of followers that are joining him here in these headquarters.
And Natalia, what can we expect happen in the next couple of hours in Colombia?
Can you repeat the question? It's very loud here.
Yes, what can we expect to happen in the next couple of hours?
Well, we're expecting first the speech of the winning candidate, Ivan Duque, and afterwards we're expecting here in this place where we are the speech of Gustavo Petro. There is also, we have to say that, lots of uncertainty regarding the future of the peace agreement, this historic peace agreement between the government and the FARC that was reached back in 2016. But as I said before, people here are saying that no matter what, there are 8 million people that demonstrate today that they are supporting peace, and that these 8 million people will continue to struggle for the implementation of this peace agreement here in Colombia.
Natalia, thank you so much for your information. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. More stories now. In Afghanistan, at least 18 people have been killed and 45 more injured following a suicide bombing near the office of the Jalabad governor on Sunday. A suicide bomber had reportedly detonated explosives while among security forces and civilians who had gathered near the governor's office to celebrate Eid, coinciding with a Taliban government ceasefire that is set to last until June 20th. There was no immediate claim of responsibility from any group or individual. A rescue ship transporting migrants has arrived in the Spanish port of Valencia after Italian authorities refused to allow the vessel to harbor in Italy for several days. Inflatable dinghies found and rescued a total of 629 migrants who were stranded off the coast of Libya at the weekend, transporting them to the safety of the Aquarius ship. Earlier this week, the Spanish government agreed to taking the migrants, including pregnant women and children who were saved by the French charity SOS over the weekend. Italy and Malta refused to let the boat dock in their ports. Some displaced Yemenis are taking shelter in a school after fleeing Hodeya. People are being forced to take shelter in a school in Mansar village near the airport after fleeing their homes due to battles between pro-government forces and Houthi rebels for control of the strategic port city. US-backed Saudi Arabia has launched an offensive aimed at retaking the city of Hodeya, home of the country's most valuable port, which is controlled by the Iran-backed Houthis. And we come to the end of this news brief. These and other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for Telesur English. I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.
Enjoy our programming from Monday